211 enemy ships dropped out of jump space right in front of us, and I had 11 minutes to decide if my crew would live or die. My name is Laura Bennett, and I commanded 12 human ships in a system called Kestrel's Reach. We were not supposed to be there. We were supposed to strike a supply line and slip away before anything big showed up. Instead, the sensors lit up with more enemy signals than any of us had ever seen in one place, and my first officer, a calm woman named Priya Nair, read the numbers out loud twice because she thought the machines were wrong. They were not wrong. Behind that enemy fleet, 9 hours away at their best speed, sat 6 unarmed ships full of refugees. 11,000 people running from a war zone, hoping to reach safety before anyone caught them. If my 12 ships jumped away right now, the enemy fleet would reach those refugees long before help could arrive. If we stayed, we might buy enough time for them to change course and escape. The math was brutal. 12 ships could not defeat 211, but 12 ships could be a problem. A stubborn, expensive, time-consuming problem. I opened a channel to every ship in my small fleet and told them the truth. "We are not staying to win," I said. "We are staying to make it cost too much for them to keep coming. Anyone who wants to jump away right now can do it, and no one will think less of them." I waited for an answer. Every single captain chose to stay. The enemy commander, a cold and exact officer named Vresk, sent one message before his fleet moved. He offered us a chance to surrender, saying the refugee convoy's fate would be decided later depending on our answer. Everyone on my bridge understood exactly what that meant. I sent back 4 words: "Come and take it." The enemy fleet began advancing in tight formation, calm and confident, the way an army moves when it has never once needed to hurry. They believed in their numbers. They trusted a set of rules that had worked for them across thousands of years of conquest: surrender or be erased. And erasing 12 small ships should have taken minutes, not hours. I had a different plan. Kestrel's Reach had a dying orange star that scrambled long-range sensors, wide fields of broken rock and old debris from collisions centuries old, and radiation belts that our shields could handle, but their bigger, older systems struggled against. I had spent those 11 minutes we should have used to escape, mapping every piece of that debris field instead. Now it was going to be our home for as long as we could survive in it. We split into pairs and trios, weaving between broken rock and dead metal, never holding a straight line for more than a few seconds. My tactical officer, a sharp young man named Daniel Cole, called out enemy positions faster than I could process them, and I trusted his voice completely because there was no time to trust anything else. The enemy ships tried to hold their careful formation as they entered the debris field, and that formation began to crack almost immediately. Their doctrine was built for open space, clean lines, predictable movement. We gave them none of that. For the first hour, we hit and disappeared, using the wreckage as cover, the way a smaller animal uses tall grass against something much bigger. Every strike we landed was small on its own, but small strikes add up when there are 200 targets, and each one reports every hit back to a commander trying to keep an exact count. Vresk expected numbers to make sense. We made sure they stopped making sense. By the second hour, we lost contact with one of our smaller ships, the Halcyon, when 3 enemy vessels finally cornered it near a wide asteroid cluster. Its captain, a steady man named Marcus Whitfield, sent one final message before the connection went dark. "Convoy is still moving," he said. "Keep going." He did not sound afraid. He sounded like a man who had already decided this mattered more than staying safe, and hearing that steadied every person on my bridge more than any battle plan could have. We kept going. The third hour brought a new kind of pressure. The enemy commander adjusted his approach, splitting his fleet into smaller hunting groups to chase us individually through the wreckage, instead of trying to hold one great wall of ships. It was smarter, and it was dangerous, because now, instead of one huge, slow-moving target, we had dozens of fast groups actively hunting each of our ships. Priya suggested we do the opposite of what they expected again. Instead of scattering further, we would briefly group together, strike one hunting cluster hard, and scatter again before the rest of the fleet could respond. It worked twice. Both times we came away bruised but alive, and both times the enemy pulled back in confusion, unsure whether we were retreating or advancing. Somewhere near the 4th hour, my own ship took a direct hit that knocked out half our sensors and threw sparks across the bridge. I remember Daniel pulling a young technician away from a damaged console just before it failed completely, both of them breathing hard, neither one saying a word about how close it had been. There was no time to speak about fear. There was only time to fix what could be fixed and keep moving. We lost a second ship in the 5th hour, the Ardent, caught in open space for a few crucial seconds while shielding a wounded ally. Its captain, a quiet woman named Grace Whitman, had spent the entire battle protecting others, more than herself, and in the end, that habit cost her ship its escape window. I heard her voice one last time across the channel, calm and clear, telling the rest of us the enemy's hunting pattern had a weakness on its eastern edge. She died giving us information that saved lives an hour later. I have never forgotten that. By the 6th hour, something had shifted in the way the enemy fleet moved. Their formations were slower to respond, their hunting groups less coordinated, their overall advance more hesitant. Vresk was losing more ships than his models had predicted, and an enemy who plans everything around numbers becomes uncertain the moment those numbers stop cooperating. Daniel noticed it before I did. He said their captains sounded less sure of themselves on intercepted communications, less willing to push deep into the debris field where we had every advantage. We used that hesitation like a weapon. We regrouped what remained of our fleet, 7 ships now, into a loose formation just inside the thickest part of the wreckage, daring the enemy to follow us in fully. Some of their ships did, chasing hard, eager to finish what should have already been finished hours earlier. Those ships found themselves surrounded by debris on every side, unable to maneuver freely, easy for us to outmaneuver, even though we were smaller and fewer. Every enemy ship that entered that trap and struggled to leave it added to a growing sense among their crews that this battle was not going the way it was supposed to. In the 7th hour, Fleet Command finally broke their long silence and told me the refugee convoy had reached the jump point. 11,000 people were safe. I did not celebrate. I did not have time to celebrate. I had 7 ships left, one of them venting precious air into space, and 211 enemy ships still circling us like a storm that refused to pass. But I held on to that message anyway, because it meant everything we had already lost had bought something real. The 8th hour was the hardest. Exhaustion had settled into every voice on the bridge. My hands ached from hours of gripping the same console. Priya had a bandage wrapped tightly around one arm that she had not mentioned once. Daniel's voice had gone hoarse from constant calling of coordinates. We were not fighting with strength anymore. We were fighting with stubbornness, refusing to give the enemy the clean victory their doctrine promised them. Then, near the 9th hour, something changed. Vresk pulled his fleet back. He did not retreat because he had lost. His fleet still vastly outnumbered ours. He pulled back because the cost of finishing us had grown far higher than any commander in his position could easily explain to those above him. 211 ships against 12 should never have taken this long. It should never have cost this many losses. An enemy built entirely around clean, predictable numbers cannot function well once those numbers stop making sense. And by the 9th hour, nothing about this fight made sense to him anymore. His ships began to withdraw, slowly, carefully, leaving us alone in a field of wreckage that had somehow, impossibly, become our shelter instead of our grave. We did not win that battle in any way the history books usually mean when they say winning. We did not defeat the enemy fleet. We survived it, 7 ships out of 12, and in doing so, we gave 11,000 strangers enough time to reach safety they might never have reached otherwise. I lost people that day, whose names I still say quietly to myself sometimes, People who chose to stay and fight when leaving would have been so much easier and so much safer. What happened at Kestrel's Reach traveled far beyond that lonely wrecked system. Traders spoke of it. Neutral observers who had watched from a careful distance carried word of it to other worlds. The story that spread was not about human strength, because we were never the stronger side. It was about something harder to predict and harder to plan against. A willingness among humans to spend everything they had on a fight the numbers said they could not win, simply because the reason mattered enough. I still do not know if that makes us brave or simply stubborn beyond reason. Some nights, I think it is both at once. But I was there, giving orders in a dying star's shadow, watching good people choose to stay when they did not have to. And I would give those same orders again without hesitation, because 11,000 people are alive today who would not be otherwise. And because somewhere out among the stars, an enemy commander still wonders exactly what it costs to make humans surrender.